All right, let's continue some more of the halachos that are nageh to Shavuos haba aleinu l'toiva in regards to basa b'cholav. In the sugya that we started yesterday, we are flying through like all different halakim of basa b'cholav, but just to give you an idea of what's nageh. So yesterday we started with a bit of a hagdama of what's nageh, why is it asa? And how is it also? We spoke a little bit about the 6 hour sugya. We didn't actually end up with the sugya of the hard cheese, by the way. We talk about after cheese, right? We spoke about the hard cheese. So again, we haven't got time to discuss each and every subject over here. But just in a small way, the Indian of hard cheese, people say there's no such thing as hard cheese, right? So the Ramah clearly says in Yeridei Simon Pei Tesi base that there is such a halacha, there is such a musuk of hard cheese, and if a person has hard cheese, he will have to wait 6 hours, just like after waiting after meat. The only question is, what's qualified as hard cheese? So the Shach and the Taz are busy with different pirushim from the Achronim. Whatever it may be, the general, mahalchim and what's for sure considered to be hard cheese is either it's been aged for 6 months, and if it's been aged for 6 months, then you can, guarantee yourself that is hard cheese that will require 6 hour wait, or it is a wormy cheese. They sell it, by the way, here in Israel. It's called gvina mutulas. Gvina mutulas is wormy cheese. The worms are moving inside, and they are milchik worms. You can enjoy those worms because they were born inside the cheese, and that's why they're actually mutter. But it would actually infer that the cheese, however, is a 6 hour cheese because it has been aged. So there's a big kasha nowadays what's considered to be, hard cheese. Is there hard cheese? Is there not hard cheese? So many places can say you go to Schweiz and you have over there, right, good hard cheese, right? Yeah, you got good hard cheese over there. So that's a real hard cheese. I spent time calling up some of the companies here in Eretz Yisrael about the cheese. How long do they, I called them up. Like, oh, we've been waiting for you. Someone to call up on exactly how much each cheese has been aged. In fact, some poskim say that even after it left the factory and it's still continuing to age in the packaging, which would mean that many of the cheeses would be hard cheese. They might say in Eretz Yisrael they're pretty machmeh, and they hold that, gvina tzuhuva, even yellow cheese, is considered to be hard cheese, which is 6 hourable. However, most poskim in Chutz La'aretz hold not that way, especially as the cheese is not exactly very strong. It's not really got a moishech tam, which will be one of the reasons, of course, to wait. And of course, even if it's melted, if you learn the Yad Yehuda, so once it's melted, for sure there's a big mokem to be makel. But pashtus, most of the cheeses that we have, unless it's a miyuchad special cheese, you would not have to wait 6 hours. Moving on. Right, Simon Sadi Zayin, everyone's familiar with the halacha. It's a Gemara talking about making milchik bread. In fact, the Ramah talks about it specifically about the yontav of Shavuos, making milchik bread. Apparently it was a minig to make milchik bread. What's the problem with making milchik bread? And milchik bread, I do not mean that I cooked it and baked it in a milchik oven. That does not make it milchik. What I mean is that you have input into the ingredients dairy products. You put actual butter, cream, whatever it may be, inside the bread. So the Gemara tells us there's an issa d'Rabbanan to make milchik bread. Why? Because since bread is something that's eaten by both milchiks and fleishiks, it's not specially for one or the other. We're worried that if you make it milchik, then we have a problem. You may come to eat it with fleish, which is obviously going to be problematic. So therefore the gezerah is, do not make milchik bread. However, there are two heterim. The Ramah brings, Shulchan Aruch brings, Simon Sadi Zayin, which is, that is number one, again, all comes from a Gemara, that if you make a small amount, which is pashtus, eaten within 1 day, it's the heter of the Ramah. If it's eaten within 1 day, then it's mutter. Bezul Obach told me one time, you can't freeze it. Don't make it and then put it in the freezer. It wouldn't help you. You have to be able to eat it within 24 hours, a small amount. If we're not worried, within 24 hours, there's going to be a problem. Number two heter would be if you make it in a way that is, it's clearly got a simon on it that it is milchik, right? Putting a wrapper around it saying milchik doesn't help you because that wrapper could be removed. It has to be, as the Piskei Teshuva clearly says, it has to be that it's baked in an unusual form that when you see this, you will know this is milchik. For example, you guys have been to the bakery here in Eretz Yisrael, you know the difference between a potato bureka and a cheese bureka, I'm assuming, right? What's the difference? What's that?
Shape.
The shape, which one is which?
Square.
Big difference.
Triangle is cheese.
Very good. The triangle is cheese. They make it bedafka that way, right? I remember one time I was present by a siyum of a very, 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 very chashuv yid. They were making a siyum on basa v'chalav, and he bought especially cold cuts, pastrami. He wanted to make up a fleischer or matzav. He sent someone to get berekas. It was an American boy, first year in yeshiva. He had no idea what he was buying. He bought cheese berekas. So buy the siyum of basa v'chalav. That's what they were doing. I'll go upon him. I was there to see that. So therefore, a person has to be careful not to make milchik bread unless. However, the Kiveiga says, what about making milchik products? For example, let's say I want to make a muffin that's milchik, or a cookie that's milchik. Is that mutter, or is that the same thing as bread? Because be'etzem, it's called dinner bread, it's pas. You would have to wash, theoretically, if you have that much. Correct. You would actually have to wash and bench if you had that many of them. So the halacha is, what Kiveiga says, something that's clearly a dessert and not eating together with the opposite min, it would be okay. So therefore, there's no gzeira on something that's eaten after. It's only eaten with, and that's why bread is the only thing that is negeh. Let's move on, Rabbi. So we do not have that much time. I wish that we did. Right? Everyone knows the Gemara in Chulin Daf Kuf Yud Aleph on a base. What the Gemara talks about there, Dogim Sha'ala Bakara, the sugi of nat barnat. What does nat barnat mean? Nat barnat means that you have, let's spell it out. Noisein tam, bar noisein tam. Maybe in English we would translate that as secondary taste. Secondary taste means if I cook rice in a pot that was used for meat, what is the din of that rice? Very negeya, especially Shavuos. People are cooking milchiks and fleischiks, and they've got pots and pans all over the place. What's the din? They're making potatoes, they're making rice in a fleischik pan. What is the din? We'll take it very, very quickly. We're machmishitas Rashi, we're talking Ashkenazim, the Ramah, not the Shulchan Aruch, not the Shach, Ravad Yitzcholik on the Shach, whatever. What we're saying is a very simple thing. And we're saying that when you take a fleischik ben yoimoy pan, ben yoimoy means it was used in the last 24 hours for hot meat. It's a ben yoimoy pan. And now you cook rice in there. What is the din of that rice? So that rice has a nat barnat taste of meat, because the meat went into the pot, the pot now went into the rice, so it's nat barnat, secondary taste. If that's the case, the halacha is like this: lichatchila, you cannot mix that with cheese. If you did already, then it's mutter. You can eat it. For reasons that we cannot simply go into in this moment of time, that's the halacha. But that's only if the pot was a ben yoimai. If the pot was an eina ben yoimai, meaning it has not been used in the last 24 hours, then what? Then be'etzem, once I cook the rice, I have rice that was cooked in an eina ben yoimai fleischiger pot. Can I mix it with cheese? The answer is yes, because it was an eina ben yoimai. True, you shouldn't do it al das kain, meaning don't make rice in a fleischig eina ben yoimai pan if I know that I'm going to mix it with milk with cheese. That maybe not. But Al Capone, once it was done, it's enough community if it's a ben yoimai and any ben yoimai. So when you call up a rabbi and he asks you, is a ben yoimai and any ben yoimai, the terms are if it was used for hot cheese or meat in the last 24 hours or it was not. The exception, of course, to this is what we call a davar chorif, where a davar chorif has its own halachos completely when it comes to this sugya. It's the only exception to nat barnat. That means if I take a knife that was used 22 and a half years ago, that's the last time I used this knife for hot meat, and I slice an onion, that onion, machlokes rishonim how much, but Al Capone make it very simple, the onion is fleischig. It's mamish a piece of meat. Ad kedei kach, that it's a shayla if you need shishim connected the whole onion if it goes into something that it shouldn't go into. Now you would not have to wait 6 hours after the onion, we spoke about that yesterday, but it's important to know that when you cut up onions, try to do it with either the type that you're cooking, or the pan that you're cooking it in, or with the power of a knife, which is even better, because that's very, very important. By the way, people don't chap, right? This is a machlokes, the Mogen Avraham and the Even HaOizer. The Mishnah Berurah brings that Halacha L'Maisa, by the way, very few times that we find the Mishnah Berurah paskening in Hilchos Yeridea. But the Machlokes Mogen Avraham and Even HaOizer is a Modik HaMachlokes. What's the Machlokes? Let's say I cut the onion with a fleischiger knife. Very common. I cut the onion with a fleischiger knife, and I take that, I put it into a blender, or put it into a, some kind of grater, whatever it is, right? To make whatever it may be. Does the blade of the grater now become fleischig? Nafkamina. If in 16 years I use the same blade to use for onions, to make for a milchige salad for Shavuos morning, boom, I have a problem. So it's a machlokes Mogen Avraham and Even HaOizer. Mishnah Berurah Takav is machme, and his Chacham Zolom is mashma to be makel. Maybe you should kasher it, whatever. Rabbi, so I'm just giving you the Rosh Prokim of the things that are negeya, because we don't have that much time, just so you should watch out and be careful. Now, zeya is one of the most dangerous things in the kitchen. Zeya is a dangerous thing. The Mishnah in Mesechtes Machshirim talks about the inyan of legabei tuma. Right, you got up to Machshirim yet? The Mishnah Machshirim talks about it. Legabei tuma, if you have a mikveh house, right, there's tuma, and the tuma can spread through the zeya zeya, steam. That's literally what the translation of zeya would be. What is the din with zeya of food? So there's a tshuva in the Rosh. In Tshuvas HaRosh, he brings down that the zeya of the food has a din of the food, right? Which means that if you've got steam going up of chicken soup, that's actual chicken soup. I remember I was once by someone's kitchen and I saw behind the stove area, right? Behind the stove area, they have like a magnet piece, and that's where they put all the pieces, the ladles, people do that things. So I said to them, that's a problem. He says to me, well, every time you walk in the kitchen, you see a Shulchan Aruch? But that's how you're meant to see. I saw a problem because you see the zeya going up over there and you have a major problem with the zeya. So what do you do in such a situation? What do you do with the salt shaker that you put over the chicken soup, and now I want to put it later on with the pizza, but it got the zeya? So halacha lemaisa like this. There's a tshuva sabach, the Piskei Tshuva brings it, the Aruch HaShulchan passes it this way also. There's a tshuva sabach, the Bach holds that once it's got a mokumli spashet, right? Once, in other words, it's not in a concentrated area, it's not going to have any koyach anymore to asa, which would mean if the zeya is, I'll give you an example by this, it's very negaya, people don't cut this. You want to add water to the Heilige Shulchan Shabbos morning. You wake up Shabbos morning, you see the Shulchan's getting a little bit shvach. Shabbos morning, the Kiddush is coming, hello, we need to make Shulchan. So what do? You pick out the whole thing, because you can't put it while it's inside, you pick it up, and you take it over to the urn, and then you open up the lid, right? And then you put it in straight from the urn, because you don't want to be, shilas of klisheni, whatever it may be. So it's not Hilchos Shabbos, I don't know, you have to look up Hilchos Shabbos. But I'm just saying, Rabbi Basa B'cholov, that's what we're dealing with, there's a major problem, because when you open up the lid, all the steam is gushing into that spout, and over there, right, where the faucet is basically, where the hot water comes out from, and 10 minutes later, you're going to want to have that hot water with a coffee and put milk in it, you have a major problem with Basa B'cholov in your urn right there, maybe you have to kasher it, I don't know. So you've got major problems over there, you've got to be careful. However, what you do is you open up the lid before it gets to the spout, so that the main gush of the steam goes away, and now you put it on, and then it will be okay. There are Haterim B'Gabi Hilchos Shabbos we're not discussing, of using a klisheni, Ayin Shom, the halachos, whatever you have to hold it, Oide B'Yodoi, Ramah, Rishon Gimel, whatever. Now, the point is that when it comes to steam, if it's got a mokim to go, then it's okay. Right? So here's the shaila. Ovens. Ovens is a major shaila. What is the din with an oven? Okay? What is the halacha when it comes to an oven? You want to make challah in an oven that was used for fleish. You want to make a cheesecake in a fleischiger oven. All of these sorts of shailas. So the basic idea would be that if you burn out the oven, you're okay. Right? Because at the end of the day, the zeya that goes, our ovens is considered to be big, which means the zeya has a mokim to go, which means it doesn't really asa so much. And therefore, if you want to use your oven that is, let's say, fleischig, and you want to use it for cheesecake, so what you can cover the cheesecake, by the way. If you cover the cheesecake, then you're for sure good, there's no problem whatsoever, as long as it's covered well. It doesn't have to be double covered, it has to be covered well, and then you can put it in a fleischig oven, and that's okay, as long as obviously there's no meat inside there. What you could do, if you want to have an open cheesecake baked in there, is you could just burn out the oven, make sure it's not so dirty. Most of the ovens in our houses are not considered to be crazy dirty, and any of the dirt that we may see is burnt out anyway, so it's not going to be, doing anything to your food, and therefore it'll be okay. You burn it out for a little bit of time, put it to the highest temperature, leave it on for a few more minutes, and you're good to go. And you can do. Now we generally do say, the Magen Avraham talks about this in Yeridea, Kuf Chov Aleph, Aruchaim Simatov Nun Aleph, and that is the sugya of kashering things from one to the other. We try not to do that, but if it's a once a year thing for Erev Shavuos, whatever, it's definitely a mocker to be makel. Now one last shaila, Rabbi Yisrael, again, we've got a billion more to do, but one last shaila for today is the shaila of using the hot plate. We talk about that because this is a very common shaila. Shavuos morning, people want to make a milchik kiddush or a milchik chasida, whatever it is, and they want to use the hot plate, which they normally use for Shabbos Kodesh, for the fleischiks, they want to use it today for the milchiks. What's the din in that case, right? So everybody's familiar with the Ramah and Simon Sadi Beis Zion that says, Ein kli bolei me kli bolei roited. That means one kli does not boileya from another kli without a roited in between. So for example, just to make it very simple, if you have a pot of chicken soup on the fire, boiling hot chicken soup, and next to it you've got a pot of cheese, cream and mushroom soup, and they touch each other on the outside, there's no problem whatsoever, okay? Nothing, there's no blias that will go between a kli to a kli, utensil to utensil, unless there's a liquid. If it flies over and if it's overspilling, then you're going to have a problem, obviously, and that will be a shaila of tzadi base, which is tipos cholov shenofel mebachutz, hardest run in shas, very difficult. Al kaponim. If there's no liquid in between, the kelim do not have a problem, which would mean that if I have my kelim and I put it onto the hot plate, even though I use my hot plate normally for fleischig, and now I'm using it for milchik, if there's no liquid in between, I'm okay. But the Ramah says, lechatchila, don't do it. Good, there's a kasha of Moshe, a kasha from the Taz and Simon Sadizayin, whatever. But al kaponim, you shouldn't do it lechatchila. So which means is, if you want to be yotza other shitas, is you take your hot plate that's normally used for fleischik, double cover it, according to the Magen Avraham, you double cover it with aluminum foil, and once you've done that, you're for sure good to put your pot of cheesecake or anything on top of that, and you're going to be gavaldik. Rabbi say, tons of shaylis to go through. There's amazing svarim that you can look at to learn these halachas, but we want to make sure when we're oisik in Shavuos, we're doing all the right halachas. Have an amazing, a beautiful day.